Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols and I will be your host. I am so sorry that I'm late this morning. I got into a research bubble and I looked up and I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh no, I forgot to prep my show for today. So, I have to remind you guys, it's just me. I'm production and producing and executive producing and running the tech. It's like, if anything goes wrong, it's me. If anything goes well, I'll totally take credit for that as well. I'll definitely, good girl. Great job. Right. So again, apologies for being late. So I hope everybody out there is having a great Thursday, Friday Eve. It is Mighty Men Thursday and it is open mic. So if there are any mighty men out there that would like to be on the broadcast this morning, let me know and send me a direct message on X or you can email me at unfilteredvisionnews@gmail.com. And with that, let's get into our Kids Corner.
You ever wondered why sometimes the strongest choice is to simply walk away? This is the story of Jack, a rich kid who learned a powerful lesson. Jack was from a rich family. He always wore nice clothes and had the newest toys, but sometimes other kids teased him because of his wealth. One day, a boy challenged Jack, trying to make him angry. The kids around laughed, waiting for Jack to fight back. Jack remembered what his mom always told him. Real strength is not in fighting, but in knowing when to walk away. Instead of fighting, Jack smiled, turned around, and walked away. Everyone was surprised by his calm choice. The teasing stopped. Other kids saw Jack's strength and respected him for his choice. They realized walking away was braver than fighting. Jack learned that real courage isn't about winning a fight. It's about choosing peace. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to walk away. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Choose peace, and you'll always walk stronger.
Yeah. Definitely, right? And that's a good lesson even for adults, because sometimes adults do not choose peace. And we're definitely seeing a lot of that today. Trust me, I've got some things to share with you guys. Like I said, I got my little research bubble and I was just like, oh my goodness, these are some things I got to share. I got to share this. Okay. But before we do anything else, let us go to the Lord and pray and ask Him how we can honor Him with our body. So, God, please protect and guard our mind and guard our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please help me to listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs and help me to honor you with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect my feet as I walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And I definitely pray extra over speaking life over my mouth because right now, war is not something that is always, when we think about war, we think about guns and tanks and different things, but war is actually with words because the tongue can be a very dangerous thing. And I definitely see a lot of verbal war. I should call it like that, between social media and the way our news cycles have run. And so those are some things I'm definitely going to be sharing with you guys today. Like I said, there's a lot going on, and I want to be able to consolidate it in a way that allows us and helps us to see what's going on so we can pray about what's going on and not necessarily get caught up in the weeds too much because sometimes you can. You really can get caught up in emotion in some of these matters. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't get emotional, right? Because we obviously we're human beings. we're gonna get emotional, right? But it's making sure that your emotions don't run away with you and you start going in such a direction that it derails you from really remembering that God is greater than all of this and that He's got this, right? And that when we need to go to Him, we need to, go to Him with everything, even with, the kind of like, what do we do next, right? But it's remembering that we do have somebody to go to. We do have someone to rely on. We do have someone who understands what's happening. So we're not alone in this. And that's what I really need everybody to remember. We're not alone in this. We're not. If anything, there are some things that need to be allowed so changes can happen. And it's when we're in these valleys, right? Because right now we're in a valley and it's not good. And the question is, how do we come out of the valley? Right? Do we come out of the valley like crabs in a barrel? Or do we come out of the valley lifting others up? So when they get to the mountain, they pull us up behind them. Right? I'm just saying. If you've ever seen the movie Ants, it's kind of like that type of way to work together. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to share with you guys was the, I guess it's the Save America Act that actually passed in the House. This is it's a big deal because people are, oh my goodness, crashing out about it. I was like, whoa, okay, very passionate. So let's see what's going on.
Capital, the GOP-led House voted today to pass the Save America Act, the sweeping election bill championed by President Trump. The vote was 218 to 213, with all but one Democrat voting against the measure.
Oops.
If passed by the Senate and signed by Trump, the bill would require proof of citizenship to register to vote, as well as identification at the ballot box. Democrats argue that this is a non-issue since it's already illegal for non-citizens to vote. House Speaker Mike Johnson, meanwhile, claims that anyone who opposes the measure wants to undermine democracy.
And the only people that oppose it are people who want to cheat our system, who want to participate in our elections illegally, unlawfully. And that's not fair to the American people.
The measure now heads to the U.S. Senate, where it is unlikely to gain the Democratic support needed to pass the chamber's 60-vote threshold.
Now, what the Republicans can do is they can use a measure to just push it through because they still have the majority. They just don't have 60, if that makes sense. They don't have 60 votes, but they could push it through. They could nuke this. They could. But let's see what happens in the Senate, right? And let me see if I've got the right screen up. Okay, there we go. Look, moving slowly because, oh my goodness, telling y'all, I was having a time this morning. Okay, I'm going to share that. Okay, walking it down. Oops, hold on. I'm so sorry. Let me try this one more time. And the reason why I want to try it one more time is because if I do this wrong, and this is sharing my screen, if I do it the wrong way, you won't be able to hear it if there's audio. So that's why I wanted to take the extra step to make sure. Yes, okay, the audio's turned on. Yay. Okay, so let's go back to it. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so now here we are. And this is gays for Trump. Yes, there is that. Okay, so realizing the falsehood that blacks are too poor to get an ID wasn't working. So Democrats now claim if the SAVE Act passes, it will affect married women who took their husband's last name. They lie about everything. So this is one of the posts. Obviously, this is somebody who does not lean Democrat, right? Talking about this. So let me see if I...
Today, I introduced an amendment that would have stopped this bill from being implemented unless we could just certify that no eligible married woman would be denied the right to vote. That should go without saying. Republicans blocked it. Let me repeat that. Republicans voted down my amendment that just would have ensured that women who are eligible and registered could still cast their ballot. This puts up to 70 million women at risk of disenfranchisement. 70 million. That's 1 in 4 voters in this country. And the burden will fall hardest on working mothers, caregivers, those juggling jobs and families who have barely a moment to spare. It's outrageous that in the year 2025, more than a century after the 19th Amendment was ratified, we still have to defend a woman's right to vote. But we will, every single day, if that's what it takes, because this is personal. It's for the mom in Gresham who can't afford to take unpaid time off work to go hunt down paperwork. It's for the woman in Hood River whose name no longer matches her birth certificate, who doesn't have the $160 for a passport. Are we really going to tell her she can't vote? Republicans failed to show up for their mothers, their daughters, their wives, and every woman in their life. But we are going to keep showing up, and we're just getting started. We're not going to stop until we build a government where working mothers and families can also thrive.
Well, you know, her statement was slightly disingenuous, and I can see why her amendment was struck down because it's already in the bill that people are protected. So let's just kind of look at some things that I researched. Okay, now I'm gonna have to share this tab. There we go, so you guys can see it. Yay! All right, see what I'm looking at, right? So this is a different video, and this is something that I went over yesterday. But here's the documentation and proof of citizenship that the act amends, okay? The whole documentary proof. So Here's what you need as proof. You can use a U.S. passport, right? And if you don't have that, a real ID, compliant driver's license, or ID card, though these do not explicitly indicate citizenship or and are available to non-citizens. So there are some states where people who are not naturalized citizens, and they may be here on a green card or a visa, what have you, they can't register to vote, as they shouldn't be, right? Because they're not a naturalized citizen. They shouldn't be allowed to vote. See, the funny thing about this whole situation that I find hilarious is that Democrats are now finally realizing what women are, right? Because they didn't know until they had to use somebody as an issue because they can't use black people anymore. But now it's, well, her name doesn't match. If you are working a job and your name doesn't match, you have to come up with documentation. And if you're working the job, you came up with that documentation. I'm just saying, right? I have my birth certificate. It's got my maiden name on there. I am now married. I have my married documents, right? But I can show the transition with my marriage license that has my maiden name on it. I got my social security card. I mean, I got my stuff together. So I find it very disingenuous because you're making it seem like people can't get their stuff together. And we have working humans. So obviously they have their stuff together. It's just really sad. And they're reaching. Okay. You can have a military ID paired with showing your US birth. Okay. Other government issued photo IDs showing US birth, such as IDs combined with an additional document like a birth certificate. You can use that. Hospital birth record, which is crazy. I was like, really? You can use that? Because I had one of those for my daughter. It wasn't her birth certificate that came from the state. It was just actually her certificate of birth from the hospital. And it's usually like a little small document, not too big. But you can use that, right? Or such IDs combined with additional documents. Let me see, I already read that. Additional adoption decree, okay. Consular report of birth abroad, okay. Naturalization certificate, all right. Or certain tribal cards. So they've expanded this a lot to include what you need. I don't know what the problem is. Oh, the problem is a lot of the people that you want to keep here to vote in our elections, they don't have this. That's why you're upset. Now, I want to, speak to our members of Congress. How about for American citizens? And I'm going to exclude those who were born here to parents illegally, right? If your parents were here illegally and then you were born, I'm not talking to you. I am talking to those individuals whose parents were either naturalized or they are citizens of this country, okay? You should, and I would think this would be great. A lot of times you guys give us tax refunds and all this stuff. Give those people a voucher or some type of, I don't know, pass to go get their passport and the ID card, a one-time thing. Get it. So then that way, everybody's got the documentation that they need that are actual citizens of this country. And I'm not talking about people. So if you were born here and you were 20 and your parents were illegal, when you were born, you're not eligible to get the passport. And everybody's like, well, wait a minute, what about the just soil and all that? We are going over the 14th Amendment right now. And until that is decided, you cannot get that. No. That's where I'm at on this. But I think, Americans that were born here to either naturalized parents or their parents are already American citizens should be gifted a passport and a passport ID card. And it will be their responsibility going forward to make sure that it is renewed every, I think it's like 10 years. You have to renew it. And then this way, there's no issue when it comes to voting, period. There's no issue. Because right now, this is an issue. And the Democrats always go back to, well, I find it funny. There's no illegals voting in our elections. Yes, there are. You've got 19 states that don't require ID. Stop that. It's just such a bad look and a bad conversation. So I'm going to go back to my Twitter, my feed, because she's interesting. This one's interesting. So let's take a listen here.
The whole point of the democracy is to make it possible for people to vote, because it's the people who get to decide the policies. And Republicans talk nonstop about protecting women. And you'd think, if they really believe this, that this would be a non-starter for them, because it disenfranchises so many women. But as we have seen with the Epstein files over this past year, what they say and what they do are two different things. The whole point of the democracy.
Really? What they say? Wow. It says Rebecca Valiant suggests that women won't be able to vote if the SAVE Act passes. Why does she think that women are not capable of getting ID? Like I said, I find it fascinating where they're at. And what I'm trying to find is there is something going around, and maybe I'll find it, maybe I won't, where they have now involved the LGBTQ in here in saying how trans women may be disenfranchised. Well, first of all, they're not women. Let's just start there. You're not a woman, you're a man pretending to be a woman. Okay? You are pretending. So yes, is this going to affect you? Absolutely. Because see, when you show up with your birth certificate, it says you're a man, even though you're dressed like a woman. Because you're not a woman. So if this is going to affect people, it's going to affect the trans people that believe they're women. Let me look that up, bro. Actually, you know what? Let me look it up in Grok. Oh, sorry, guys. I just thought about this. I was like, wait a minute. Well, I do this sometimes on the show for those of you that are new. And it is an interesting conversation to have, in my opinion, because there are people that strongly believe they are as they identify. But, at the beginning of last year, one of the first few executive orders that President Trump signed was defining that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. So he was like, I'm not playing this gender game. Biologically, you are who you are. There's no more identifying, right? So I had, briefly, like I said, I got stuck in the research bubble. And I just got stuck on it. Like, okay, what's going on? Oh, that's so sweet. While Grok is going on, Will Jones says, Ashaki Nichols, you are a natural sorry. There we go. I was trying to do your comment. It says, keep going and sharing. Oh, thank you so much, Will. I appreciate that. And good morning. Thank you for joining us on the show. And Uncle Coolwater, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. And Uncle Coolwater says, good morning. I heard that a lot of women who are married and are required to show a birth certificate or something like that doesn't necessarily match their marriage name. Have you heard anything about it? Yes, I have. And here's the thing. I've heard about it for a long time because I've actually, been married. This is my third marriage. No judgment, right? I got it right the third time. Third time's a charm. Let's just say that. Okay. But here's the deal. every time that I got married and divorced, so my first marriage and divorce, I went back to my maiden name. Now, it was pretty easy to go back to my maiden name from my married name, right? Because it was my first last name. So that was easy. Now, my second marriage, because I had went through it the first time, you start off with your social security card, because once you get your social security card with your new name on it, honestly, everything is easier because you can show the transition with your birth certificate and your social security card. So getting your ID card after that, it's just an easier process. So what would have been silly is to go to the DMV and say, "Hey, my name has changed." They would tell you go back to the Social Security office because we're going to need your number and your name and your Social Security number to match before you do anything else. So that's what I learned. And they're not bringing this up. Oh, you're saying, okay, that was the question. Oh, my question was about your name matching your ID to vote. Oh, gotcha. Look, if you're, if let's just say, well, this kind of happened to me. So my husband and I, we got married. When we got married, my maiden name was on my passport, right? If I had gotten it changed by the time we got married, it had been like a year, and I fell out of that 6-month window where I could just, get it updated for a small fee. I would have had to pay the fee of getting another passport. So I just waited, right? No shame. I just waited. Now, there were times when I was traveling that it was kind of just an inconvenience because my names didn't match. That's kind of how this voter ID thing will pan out. But you have to register that way first. So you can't just show up at the voter booth, right, without your paperwork together. So let's just say 2026, you get married, I guess, in September. Elections in November. Oh no. There's a name change. What do you do? Do you register with your maiden name as you already are right now and all of your documents match? Or do you register under your married name? Right? Where your documents are going to be different because it's going to take some time. It's going to take a couple weeks to get that paperwork aligned and matched up. So I hear what you're saying, Uncle Coolwater. It's making sure you are who you say you are. So even if you go and you register and you present your documents, they're going to be able to sift this out for you because people get married. And on your marriage license, it actually shows your maiden name. So you're fine. That maiden name is going to match your birth certificate, right? Your ID, if it's not changed yet, is still going to match your birth certificate and the name that's on your marriage license. So they know that you are who you say you are. Okay? Even if you've put in for your name change. So everything is always in alignment. What they're trying to do is say, okay, you've got your birth certificate with your maiden name, your driver's license has your married name, and there's no other document in between there to show what happened. Why did your name change? Just show all your documents. And that's all you got to do. It's not really difficult to do, but they're making it seem like it's so burdensome. Oh my God. You know what? Look, there are a lot of women that get married that don't change their name at all. Let's just talk about that part. Okay. Look, I told my husband when we got married, I was like, look, I got married to these other two individuals. And guess what? I changed my last name. So what I'm not going to do is sit here and go, I'm not changing my last name. You know what? My last name is Nichols all day, every day. Okay. I did that. I want to be matching. I'm in the group. Okay. My last name is Nichols. Period. My maiden name is right. Okay. And I'm happy about it. And it's joyful. So I know that there are reasons that other women do not change their last name. Some, they've gotten married more than once. They have children with the prior marriage and they decide, okay, I'm going to keep this last name until my children are graduated or whatever, then, or they hyphenate their last name. There's a lot of people that do that. Personal choice, I ain't doing that, right? I'm grateful all my paperwork matches. But there are ways and documentations to show that you're good. But they're trying to make it seem like, oh my gosh, but it's just something to crash out about because they want to cheat. I'm down with Johnson. They just want to cheat. Like, just say it. Just say it with your whole chest. And Cajun Lady, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the stream. I was getting concerned. I was like, my stream wasn't showing up on X yesterday. I was like, what did I do? My goodness. It was crazy. But I hope that helps, Uncle Coolwater, because it can seem very confusing to those who have not had to do that. Right? Men do not typically have to go through a name change unless there's like an adoption thing that happened when they were younger, right? And they want to change their last name, or let me see what other things can change. You know, maybe later on in life, let's say they were adopted and they met their adoptive parents and they want, again, those are steps that you would have to take, but then you would have to show up with your adoption certificate, which is what they brought up. That can be a formal document, right? Verifying you are who you say you are. But see, a lot of these people that are here illegally, they don't have birth records. And from the place that they left, they don't have access, I should say, to those records. So they can't affirm their citizenship. So let's just dial it back a little bit. This is about affirming your citizenship. This is not necessarily about affirming who you are. And that's why people are crashing out about this. Because you have to validate your citizenship. That's what this is about. Are you an American or are you not? Right? And if you are a naturalized citizen, right, then you are a citizen of this country. But if you're a Visa card holder, you're not. If you're a green card holder, you're not. If you're H-1B, you are not. So all of those classifications, if you're not naturalized, it's over. Let's just put it that way. If you're not naturalized, you're done. So you can't go vote for anything. Nothing. You shouldn't even be on the rolls. And this is going to clear a lot of people off the voter rolls, which is why there's a certain party crashing out about this. That's why they're crashing out, you guys. Just, you know, whew. My goodness. Now, I did want to go into the trans women a little bit, just a bit, just rock with me on this one. So, will this affect trans women? Because I'd ask, yes, the SAVE Act could significantly affect trans women, potentially disenfranchising many due to its strict documentary proof of citizenship requirements for voter registration in federal elections. These burdens are similar to those faced by cisgender. So stupid. By real women. Let's just replace that, but faced by real women, right? Whose names mismatch, but often are exacerbated for trans women because of additional challenges in updating legal documents to reflect their name and gender identity. You can't change your biological. You can't just identify as something biological. And like I said, it's going to mess them up because you can no longer identify right now, at least under that executive order. If you were born a man, then you're a man. And that's it. And you're just going to have to show that kind of proof. And you're going to feel like, well, that's intrusion. You're intruding. No, you're a man. And you're a man that decided to identify as a woman, but that's not going to save you. When you register to vote, you've got to register as a man, not a woman, because you're not a woman. So everybody's about to crash out on this and get real offended. Just saying. So based on analysis, an estimate 218,800 eligible transgender voters nationwide could face difficulties voting under such laws, with up to 91,300 at risk of outright disenfranchisement in states that strict photo ID rules overall, around 89% of trans individuals may encounter registration barriers due to inconsistent or outdated documents. Okay, so there's less than 250,000 of these individuals. So it's less than 250,000 people. So that's way less than 1% of the population. I'm just saying. But I know they're going to make this a hot button issue because this is all they have left. This is it. Because the black people are like, bye, we're good. Women are like, are you serious right now? Stop it. This is your last hill. This is going to be their last hill to die on. And it will die on this hill, in my opinion. I'm just woosah. Okay. So the act mandates documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. Okay. Passport, birth certificate. See, these are the things that are not going to match. If you are a man saying you identify as a woman, you're not matching your birth certificate. You're still a man. It doesn't matter. I don't care how many body parts you get cut off and how many body parts you get put on. You're still a man. You were still born a man. And you're identifying as something else mismatches you from your birth certificate. So are you just going to tap out and not vote? Just saying. I'm just saying. Is that what we're doing? Or are you going to identify with your birth? Because you can't change your birth certificate. I know y'all are trying to do that nonsense. You can't. It's a legal document. You can't change it. Stop that. It's crazy. But anyway, I will add this and I will add this link in the post so you guys can go through it because there's in person and alternative verification processes. But some of these things are going to happen in person and it's going to impact a lot of people. It really, truly is. So the question becomes, are we feeling sorry for you? I don't feel sorry for you at all. Voting is a privilege. It is not a right. Period. Do what you got to do, but don't cheat. That's all I'm saying. And Cajun Lady says they want the chaos and confusion. They, let me see. Oh my God, I gotta do this right, Cajun Lady, so I can see what you're saying. It's really tiny. They want the chaos and confusion. They really think we're ignorant. They do. Oh my gosh. Well said. Thank you so much. And Spud McKenzie says, good morning. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on YouTube. They need the chaos. They need us crashing out with them like, oh no, what's going to happen to these people? I am so sorry. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but not my fault. Not my fault, not my fight. Not my issue. Okay? Because if you are a citizen of this country, right? By birthright or naturalization, and you know the laws of this country, this is not a problem. This is like, oh, we're just reaffirming what we should have been doing all along. Why aren't we doing this? Why are there so many questions? Why are there 19 states that do not require ID when you go to vote? Why do we have voter rolls that haven't been cleaned in decades with dead people on them? But yet you claim there's nothing to see here. That's a problem. And it's all coming out. Look, I'm telling you, there's some things I'm about to share with y'all. Save Act. Okay. Now, I want to share a couple of videos with you. This is a religious liberty hearing that just happened a couple of days ago. The sad part about this, and this is just my opinion, is the encroachment of those that are of Jewish descent, how they are really affecting our First Amendment rights. It's really sad. It's like, can I ask a question and get a straight answer? Or everything I ask is inflammatory? and anti-Semitic, right? So I wanted to share this with you guys because, like I said, it is very, very concerning what's happening right now.
Tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians in Gaza and their universities' financial ties to that war. So I need to ask you, in a country built on religious liberty and the First Amendment, do you believe someone can stand firmly against anti-Semitism, including what you experienced, and at the same time condemn the mass killing of Palestinians in Gaza, or reject political Zionism, or not support the political state of Israel? Or do you believe that speaking out about what many Americans view as genocide in Gaza should be treated as anti-Semitic? Because in my view, the United States cannot and must not make loyalty to a particular theology about Israel a litmus test for protected speech or moral legitimacy.
What I'll say is that Natan Sharansky says there's three things that you shouldn't do with Israel. You shouldn't delegitimize it, you shouldn't demonize it, and you shouldn't apply a double standard. If you can abide by those three things, you're not anti-Semitic.
So by not being a Zionist, does that make you an anti-Semite?
I don't think you need to be a Zionist to support a country that defends itself and is free and religious in a hostile neighborhood.
So is anti-Zionism
Hold on
anti-Semitism?
one second, Carrie.
Yes.
It is? It is?
Sorry.
Yes.
You know, I'm a Catholic, and Catholics do not embrace Zionism, just so you know. So are all Catholics anti-Semites, according to you?
As I said, anti-Zionism, by denying the right of the Jews to have their own state while not saying the same for any other peoples, that is a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
So just to be clear, are Catholics anti-Semites?
Carrie, excuse me. I'm going to interrupt the discussion. Our committee is focused on religious liberty taken from all people. This is not the commission for that.
Right, but we're talking about a foreign nation, so I want to be clear on what the definition of anti-Semitism is. If I don't support the political state of Israel, am I an anti-Semite? Yes or no?
They already answered, asked and answered.
According to you on the record, yes? If I don't support the political state of Israel?
I don't personally label people, but what I'm saying is, if somebody states if somebody says they're an anti-Zionist, they are saying about themselves that they have a double standard and hypocrisy, and they're taking anti-Semitic positions.
Yeah, the word salad and wordplay. It's like, wait a minute, wait, what? What? So if I don't support what's going on, then I'm an anti-Semite? And like, again, people have asked me, because I did run for president of the United States, and they were just like, what is your thoughts on Israel? And I was like, well, I pray for the people of Israel. I do not like what their government is doing right now. And that has always been my stance, and that will stay my stance. I do not like what the government is doing. That does not reflect what's happening with the people. And by the way, Israel is not a Christian nation. So why do you demand my support? What is wrong with you? You were just like every other piece of dirt on this planet. I pray for the people that are subject to their government. I don't like what their government is doing. Now, the question she was trying to get to is, does that make me an anti-Semite? Because right now, in my opinion, the encroachment of Israel on America is at a fever pitch. It needs to stop. I don't live in Israel. I live in America. And you're not going to come over here telling me who I am and what I can and cannot say if you don't go somewhere. And I'm going to say it with my whole chest again. Why? You know why? Because I'm of Jewish descent. I wish you would mess with me by blood and birthright, not by religion. So let's go. Come with it. As people say, I want all that smoke. Y'all need to stop. It's just sad. All right, I'm going to play the second video for you guys. It's the same hearing. So it might overlap with what she actually asked, but there were different people involved in conversation with Bowler.
Well, as you know, I'm a Catholic, and Catholics do not embrace Zionism, just so you know. So are all Catholics anti-Semites, according to you?
As I said, anti-Zionism, by denying the right of the Jews to have their own state while not saying the same for any other peoples, that is a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitic.
So by not being a Zionist, does that make you an anti-Semite?
I don't think you need to be a Zionist to support a country that defends itself and is free and religious in a hostile neighborhood.
You believe that speaking out about what many Americans view as genocide in Gaza should be treated as anti-Semitic.
These were students calling for intifada within days after October 7th, before Israel had even entered Gaza. So it's not about them and their using Palestinian civilian death, which is horrendous and horrible. They're using it as a prop.
I don't support the political state of Israel. Am I an anti-Semite? Yes or no?
They already answered. Asked
Yes.
and answered.
According to you, on the record, yes? I don't support the political state of Israel?
I don't personally label people.
Yeah. And she asked it outright. If I don't support the political state of Israel, why is it our business anyway? Really? Like me as an individual? Look, y'all have problems. We have problems. There are a lot of countries that have issues. Why do you keep trying to goat rope me into ideology around a country? You're living under theocracy. And that's the problem. There's no freedom in that. There's no freedom in a theocracy. Now, a lot of people might say America's a theocracy because, like, yeah, you Christians, you run around and you're talking about God all the time. Yeah, because some of the founders, they were in alignment with God. Some weren't. I still got to study that out. I'm telling you, something blew my mind, and I have not gone down that rabbit hole yet. But until I go down that rabbit hole, this is my stance. One nation under God. We have we have the First Amendment that gives you religious freedom, right? You can worship as you choose. You can't murder people. You can't do human sacrifices and all that stuff. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that because that's illegal, even though that's in some of the Epstein files, and we'll get to that later. But just saying, you have religious freedom, and you do not have to succumb to any other religious ideology if that is not your stance or your choice. So why are you trying to goat rope people and say, well, if you don't support Israel in a certain way, then you're an anti-Semite? If y'all don't go somewhere and stop. On its face, it's disgusting. And I know about the little campaign going on between Wyoming and New Mexico and Arizona and parts of Nevada and even in small parts of California with Show Faith by Works. Yeah, the geofencing, pushing a narrative that Americans need to support Israel. And you can tell who's on the payroll on YouTube because the way they're talking and the narratives that they keep putting out. Oh, yeah, this is a thing. But you're using that part of the West as your incubator, your little test spot. Oh, what else is over there? TPUSA. Oh, yeah, I'm going to bring y'all up in this. Y'all over there too. Yeah, the geofencing is going to happen when people go to church and they're going to be getting pinged about things about Israel. They're going to see some pastors online talking about Israel and how we need to give Israel our support. And the more and more you see it and hear it, just know that it's a lot of propaganda. And it's sad. And I'm sorry to tell you guys that the lady that was speaking, Miss Bowler, she's been removed from this religious liberty hearing. Oh, because you cannot be free on the religious liberty hearing, right? Even though that's supposedly what we're fighting for. You can't have a dissenting voice. Everybody's got to be tap dancing the right way. So sad. So sad. So, if this lets me know that whole religious liberty hearing or that group, y'all are trash. And you're not about freedom of speech. You are about making sure that people go along with what you say, period. That's what you're about. You don't care. And that's okay. I'm okay with that part. But don't gaslight me and try to make me believe something that's not true. Like, that's what we're not going to do. We're not going to play those games. Those are the games we're not going to play. But those are the games that they like to play. And Uncle Coolwater says, don't the majority of Christian churches and organizations support Israel in every aspect? Yeah, naturally, right? Oh, and good morning, Sincerely. How are you? She says, good morning, founder. Yes, most churches support Israel, right? Just by what we're taught biblically. Because Jacob, when he was on his way to Israel to see his son Joseph, that actually saved his family during a famine, right? Everything that happened to, save that family and bring them into Egypt. God renamed him Israel and told him, and blessed him and shared with him about the people of Israel, what they would go through, the challenges and everything. He goes, now you are Israel. And I've always asked this, so is Israel a place or is it a people? And they're trying to say this is a strict location, but that doesn't make sense. God gave Israel land, but Israel's a people. It's not a place. I'm just saying, that's in the Bible. Now, God gave Israel land for their people. They were struggling out in the desert 40 years, just wilding out, just doing stuff, right? Took them 40 years to get it together and actually settle down in a settlement. Okay? But it's still the people. The people make up Israel, not the place. You could take all those people that are in the location they're at right now, they would still be Israel because they're the people of Israel, not the location. And they don't talk about it from that aspect. Why? When the Torah and the Bible, because this is in the Old Testament, clearly states that. What are you running from? What are you trying to do? But then you want Christians to go along with what you're doing right now. And there are atrocities going on. Like I said, I pray for the people of Israel. I do not like what their government is doing. Because what their government is doing in certain aspects is wrong. It just is. And it needs to stop. Now, is that to say that what the other governments over there are doing that are fighting with them, that they're right? No, they're wrong too. And the people that are suffering are the people, not the people in government. And that's the issue that I have all around the world. We've got these people in government that don't care about the people that they're serving. They don't care. They care about how lined their pockets get. Let's talk about that, right? They're more concerned with, going to the fancy parties and enriching themselves off of the American people. There was actually a little post that I saved in my bookmarks that I wanted to share with you guys. There's so much that I need to share with you guys. Oh my gosh. There's just so little time and so much information. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me find it. There it is. There it is. There it is. Okay, let me share my screen with you guys. Okay, and I got sound. Let me pause it. Okay. Yep, this is what I want to share. All right. So it says, unbelievable, isn't it? What are we going to do about these government employees who make more than their bosses? The bosses, in case Americans need to be reminded, are you and me, okay? The American taxpayer. Do you ever ask yourself how much taxpayer money have they stolen, though? Right? So let me share this with you. So this is what I was reading from. Do you ever ask yourself how much taxpayer money they have stolen through the famous NGOs or insider trading? So check this out. Okay. So what you're seeing here, this is us. These are our politicians. That was in 1995, by the way. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. 99, it looks like we're catching up a little bit. Just slightly. But we're at 100. Well, I'm sorry. That was like 100. It says 119, but it's like 119, 120. They're at 350%. They work for us. How? Look, somebody asked me when I was running for president, they're like, what would be the first thing you do? I throw everybody in prison. Oh my gosh. Yes. I'll throw all of you in prison because that's where you should be, enriching yourself off of the American taxpayer. Look, every single one of them needs to be in prison right now. Now I'm gonna show you some more crash out moments from Bondi and Holly and all this other nonsense. But yeah, this is what they're doing. And wait a minute, we start leveling out in 2005. Nothing's going up. They're at 672%. We're at 165%, and it goes down, and it keeps going down, and it keeps going down. So 2008, we're at 93% net worth. They're at over 1,000% net worth. Let's keep going. Okay, so by the time we get to, let's see, 2013, we're at 69% net worth. They are at 1,210%. Let's keep going. Their curve it's not even a curve anymore. It's just going straight up because they figured out how to cheat the system. And by cheating the system, I mean, they just did all the insider trading. It was like, okay, we're just going to write the legislation that benefits these businesses, and then we're going to invest in those businesses, and we will know every single time because we are writing the legislation that changes all of this. Again, they all need to be in prison, period. We need to shut this down. And I'm not a libertarian in the sense like, let's burn it down. No, people need to be replaced. And the people that replace them need to know, you know what? You will be in prison right along with them if we find that you step 1 foot out of line. We're not playing with you. But see, we're kept at bay. And then they want to give us stuff and kind of keep us happy. They're like, American people are getting upset with us. I don't know. Y'all, we need to give them something. Give them something. So they allowed Donald Trump back in office. And when I say allowed, because they could have cheated. They could have cheated if they wanted to. They could have put, Harris in office. Nobody would have believed that she won, but they could have done it if they wanted to. Because we're seeing that that's what they do. Because the way they're crashing out about this whole SAVE Act, it's very telling. You can tell by the way people move and by the way they get outraged, because everybody, Republican and Democrat, they want to make sure that we have fair and free elections. So even though the Democrat percentage might not be as high as the Republican percentage, it's still a percentage in favor of the act. Why are you crashing out? This should be an easy bill. This should have been done in 2 weeks. Passed, done, that's it. But no, we're here. Okay, so we're at 2019. It's still going up. Now they're over 2,400%. We are at 230% net worth. Okay, and so by the time you get to 2022, their curve starts to come down to 2,486%, and ours goes up to 337%. But that was during the pandemic, right? Those were the pandemic years. And then it finally ends with 2023. So this was still during the pandemic. So their net worth started to come down just a bit. But that shouldn't be happening at all, right? That shouldn't be happening. Why is that happening? What is going on? Okay. Now I'm going to share with you before we get into any, some of the hearings that happened. I wanted to share this video with Josh Hawley. Now, this is talking about the fraud, still more fraud found in Minnesota. You guys, telling you, make your blood boil.
Corin, let me just come back to you. I want to get a handle here on just the scale of the fraud in Minnesota. We talked about the dark money groups funding much of what's going on the ground, but let's just get a handle here on the scale of the fraud. You are a member, I want to get this right, of the the Office of the Legislative Auditor. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, of the Legislative Audit Commission.
Audit Commission, got you. You oversee the Office of the
Yes.
Legislative Auditor. Okay, got it. So you've got access to all of this information. Give me your best estimate based on the information you've seen, the audits you've seen. How many of the agencies, 20 or so agencies, I think in the state of Minnesota, public agencies, how many have rampant fraud?
All of them are wrapped up in some sort that can issue. There's 20 primary state agencies in state law. Of the largest, there are 10 of our largest primary agencies. Many of the nonprofits receive grants and funding from all 10 agencies.
If you had to put a number on it, based on what you've seen, your work, your investigations, the audits that you've seen, what do you think the total losses are to Minnesotans in terms of fraud?
I think the conservative number is what our federal investigators have determined. Of just the 14 Medicaid programs, that half of all of it would be about $9 billion. And I don't think that's, and I think the reason I believe that's true is in each audit that the legislative auditor produces, we measure right level in the samples of what they have done. 20 to 80% of each one of them, they're unable to prove that the dollars were actually have gone to the programs in which they're indicated.
$9 billion. How much of this money has left Minnesota for overseas?
Well, I arrived in 2017. The Child Care Assistance Program fraud, for which the program, I believe, is $130 million. The whistleblowers showed us that they believe $100 million of that was fraudulent. We had a whistleblower come forward, actually publicly, and at that time we also discovered something new to me, which is the Hawala process of the movement of cash through our airports in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And what I've come to learn, and that year it was just coincidentally $100 million in fraud, suspected fraud, and $100 million went out in cash through the Minneapolis St. Paul airport. I've learned that.
Tell us how that worked. $100 million in cash through the airport.
In suitcases, back then it was $1 million out of crack. And so I've learned that in the year before, it was about $74 million. Secretary Bessent I've tried for 2.5 years to get that number because I wanted to get a view of how many excess dollars are sent out from the program, from the community that's sending them. And in the last 2 years, it was $340 million each year. And so if you look at it, it's about a 25% increase over this period from 2017. That's $1.8 billion in cash. And I don't think the average citizen who works for their money understands how complicated it is to ship or to obtain $6 to $7 million of cash every single week of the year. And our federal government certainly must have been aware of it and has done nothing to look at it. But that's just all but about $130 million, I think, is originated out of Minnesota.
You know, but what every American taxpayer absolutely understands is their federal tax money being taken on suitcases out of this country to go heaven knows where. I mean, if that's not infuriating, I don't know what is. And the fact that it is systemic in Minnesota, and probably to your testimony, Mr. Talco, probably systemic in a lot of other places. I mean, millions of dollars in suitcases out of an airport, and that's just one means of shipping this money around. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. I want to come back to you, Mr. Talco. You testified that about $1 trillion you think is lost in fraud every year. Where is this money going? I mean, we know where some of it's going in Minnesota. It went overseas. It went to Somalia. It went to NGO fronts. We know where it's gone in some other states. California gave away billions of dollars to a pro-Hamas NGO. But $1 trillion nationally, where's this money going to?
I appreciate that question because most people don't ask that question. It goes to terrorism. It goes to child trafficking. It goes to drugs. It goes to terrorism. And then it's used to purchase luxury items, cars, purses, homes That's all funded by people like me that pay taxes.
So you're telling me that the electrician who goes to work every day and clocks in and works his butt off and tries to earn just enough to be able to, make his rent, maybe have a kid or two, put food on the table, his tax money is being used to buy other people luxury items, cars, yachts, whatever else, and is going to fund terrorism and child trafficking?
Yes, sir.
$1 trillion a year on this stuff?
$115 million an hour.
$115 million an hour. How do they get in their hands on it? What are we talking about here? Trends, national organizations, criminal networks? How do they get their hands on this money?
They take advantage of antiquated government systems and processes. They go into programs that they know elected and appointed officials won't touch, and they can steal at scale. And what happened really was during the pandemic, between the PPP loans and the unemployment insurance, they learned a really valuable lesson. Government never runs out of money, and the probability of getting caught is virtually zero. I have it at 0.1%.
So come back to the recommendations that you mentioned in your opening statement. What do we need to do to put a stop to this hemorrhaging of people's hard-earned money going overseas to finance child trafficking and luxury yachts? I mean, what needs to happen here?
It's really simple. It's used every single day in the commercial sector. Front-end identity verification, you just don't get to say, I am who I say I am. Second, recertification of all the recipients. There is so much fraud right now in the benefit programs all across the country. We need to get a baseline. Third, this notion of a third-party independent audit. And finally, is involving federal law enforcement, like the Secret Service, to investigate it. The thing that people don't understand is that most of these beneficiaries, Senator, they're not real. They're fake. They're someone's stolen identity that is getting used in all 50 states.
Yeah. So it's not just Minnesota. That's the problem. It's not just Minnesota. Sorry, you guys. Somebody's asking for a link to the show. So somebody may be joining us here shortly or not, but it's really disheartening because they're still finding more money in Minnesota. And the bad part about it is they already had whistleblowers coming forward saying, hey, we're sounding the alarm. Help us. This thing's going on. And some people got fired. They fired them. They let them go because they wanted to deter people. I'm just saying. They didn't want anybody else asking questions. They wanted their fraud to go unfettered. And then, when things started getting all exposed and, they wanted to blame the baby. I'm talking about Nick Shirley. He's 23. He's the baby. Okay. They wanted to blame the baby because the Leering Center was spelled wrong. How you going to blame the baby? And how long was this misspelled? Like, what are you doing? That should have been caught like day 1 or 2. Like I can see, okay, everybody's excited. You put the sign up and it's like, oh yeah, we're doing this daycare thing. How long was it up there before he recognized that it was misspelled? And then you fixed it, but you still blamed the baby. And then finally, you've got all these major networks coming. Minnesota, well, this, that, and the other. Y'all are late to the party. And you still want to blame the baby? That all happened. We all saw it. It was crazy. I'm just saying. And it was weird. So now let's move forward. I did want to play this because I know that I've been going over the Epstein files. But the interesting part is, I do watch InfoWars. And Greg Reese did a report and he was talking about the distractions that could be within the Epstein coverage. And that's where we kind of have to be careful, right, of the information that's out there. So let's check this out.
Knife? What knife? Are you suggesting this is a knife I have in my hand? Have you gone mad, my sane husband? There was a knife, but I lost it.
Isn't it fascinating how the timing always lines up like a rigged game of dominoes? Just as the Epstein files start spilling out their filthy secrets, names, dates, and depraved dealings that could topple empires.
There are code words that suggest Jeffrey Epstein and his associates could maybe even be engaging in some sort of consumption. Is that human consumption?
The media machine cranks into overdrive with blatant distractions and a minimization press.
That bomb squad vehicle just pulled back in, but the two SWAT vehicles and the mobile command center are still out there somewhere. We were made aware of a location that they might be traveling to.
Election fraud gets criminally exposed in broad daylight, with whistleblowers and evidence piling up like unpaid bills.
Normally you would expect to see a smooth curve going up, not any big spikes. That's kind of what Greg was talking about, the anomalies of loading and uploading those votes. So that big spike that occurs there is a prime indicator of fraudulent voting.
And that's 604,000 votes in 90 minutes, is that right?
Correct.
Smartmatic has its office in Caracas, and it's co-located with the Consejo National Electoral, the National Electoral Commission. And there's 150 Smartmatic engineers and 150 C&E engineers side by side. And they have two missions. Number one, steal elections. Number two, defeat audit. Study audit. How do different states and different localities conduct audit so that when they're audited, you defeat audit?
And suddenly the SAVE Act, that beacon of voter integrity, born of common sense, loses steam thanks to spineless politicians on both sides of the uniparty aisle playing footsie with the deep state.
The SAVE Act is expected to be brought to the floor for a vote this week. What are your thoughts on that? Are you going to support the SAVE Act?
Not at all. It's a terrible idea. This notion that we want to put more obstacles in the paths of voters is just what Donald Trump wants, fewer people voting. I want every legal citizen in America to be able to vote without obstacles.
Do you think requiring an ID to vote in elections is making it harder? I mean,
it's more than that. It's more than an ID. It's proof that you were born in America. So what are we talking about, a passport or a birth certificate? Got one of those handy with you?
And it's not, because I read that to you guys, it's not proof that you were born in America. It's proof that you're a citizen of America. There's a difference, because there are people that are naturalized citizens, okay? But their birth certificate may be from another country, and they have to get that document. Without that document, no, they can't vote. Even if they're naturalized, they still have to show it. They have to show it along with their naturalization papers. And y'all are crashing out.
In your purse? I doubt it.
But no, we can't have the masses focusing on the actions of our own.
Actually, she can't have her passport in her purse because there's a passport card. I have mine. Now, people have been using their passport ID as opposed to the regular ID, right? Because the one thing the passport ID doesn't have on there is your address, but your driver's license does. So, and they still both work because they are still a form of facial ID. It does have your date of birth, but it does not have your address.
Overlords. Instead, it's wall-to-wall coverage of the Savannah Guthrie kidnapping saga on Fox News and every other propaganda puppet show with regurgitated monotony. But at least we at InfoWars can talk about the sheer volume of dirt they're burying under this avalanche of sensationalism.
Listen to me, because this isn't a reality TV show. This is entertainment. If this is handled wrong, we will have the Great Reset, and you'll be lucky if you're eating bugs. You'll probably be dead. And of course, now it's come out Lex Wexner, as I told you 15 years ago, was the CIA, Mossad, MI6 mega spy chief running Epstein for George Herbert Walker Bush and Bill Barr, putting him on the Trilateral Commission when he's 30 years old, on the commission, not just a subcommission.
The Trilateral Commission is some spooky stuff. People said it was some of the people that, the Illuminati, there's some mystery about it, people that ran the world. It was politicians, but David said most countries, the politicians get elected for 4 years or 8 years, separate from the royal families in England or in the Middle East. Someone's there for 4 years and then they're not there anymore. The most important people to have stability and consistency would be businessmen. So he formed this trilateral commission of businessmen and politicians from 3 major continents. So it was the North Americans, the Europeans, and the Asians. So he said to me, would you like to be on the Trilateral Commission? Now, I was 30 years old.
That's because they have to have a guy trained and ready that's doing the job who will do exactly as they say.
Meanwhile, the propaganda outlets aren't just non-reporting. They are engineering consent, diverting eyes from the collapsing house of cards, just to test the waters and see how much we can really take. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
All right, I'm going to be very clear about this. I've done an hour and a half of...
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that with y'all. Right? The waters have been muddied. Period. And Cajun lady says before 1913, there were no federal income taxes, right? We use tariffs. You are absolutely correct. Because I want to say it is the 16th Amendment that was put in place by Woodrow Wilson that gave us the wonderful income tax we have now. And we are debt slaves. I don't care if people don't like the word slaves. We are debt slaves. Slavery is not over in this country, period. It's still going on. It's just going on in different forms. And people are finally waking up to it. And they're like, hey, wait a minute. You stop. That's crazy. And now that Trump has brought our country back to taking in tariffs, the federal income tax needs to be in. It does. They truly do need to abolish the 16th Amendment. I'm okay with it. Okay. Yep, there's the link. You have the link. Sorry, guys. Trying to send somebody a link that wants to be a part of the broadcast. So hopefully we'll have someone joining us shortly. But yeah, it is very interesting what is going on. Now, there is another video I want to play for you guys. Now, I have been trying to do better about following the Epstein files, but I wanted to show the distraction. Now, this next one, I'm not going to play like all of these whole videos because they are very long, but I did want to get some in briefly before our guest comes up to join us. Because like I said, I just sent them the link. Now, this is one that talks a little bit about what Jeffrey Epstein was saying, the Trilateral Commission. He mentioned that in this video that we just went over. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Trilateral Commission. Like, what is that? What is it? It was never a formal governmental position. It is what our government decided to create, and it was some members of our government. It wasn't something that the president put in place. They just decided, we're just going to do this, and did it. Very, very crazy.
A single email unearthed from the sprawling Jeffrey Epstein document dumps has sent shockwaves through anyone paying attention. In 2003, investigative journalist Edward J. Epstein, no relation to Jeffrey, but a longtime chronicler of espionage, cover-ups, and institutional deceit, Edward Epstein reached out directly to Ghislaine Maxwell with the casual yet loaded invitation, any interest in joining a proposed shadow commission on 9/11? This wasn't some random outreach. The former Harvard professor was floating the idea of an alternative inquiry into the attacks, one presumably free from the constraints and compromises that plagued the official 9/11 commission.
What diminishes the idea of a conspiracy in my mind is not that one can't think of a good reason why one couldn't put a conspiracy together, but it's the passage of time. One has to take that into their reckoning as we covered, decade after decade.
Maxwell's inclusion on the invite list speaks volumes about the overlapping circles of power, influence, and potential blackmail that Epstein's operation allegedly cultivated. Why would a man known for dissecting government whitewashes think the partner of Jeffrey Epstein belonged on such a panel? The official 9/11 Commission report, released in 2004, has long been accused of being a carefully curated exercise in selective truth rather than unvarnished accountability. Glaring omissions like the collapse of the World Trade Center Building 7, ignored Saudi connections to the hijackers, eyewitness accounts of bombs by Barry Jennings in World Trade Center 7.
Now, Barry Jennings, you were on the 8th floor, you work for the City Housing Department. Explain to me the moment of impact.
Well, me and Mr. Hess, the Corporation Counsel, were on the 23rd floor. I told him we got to get out of here. We started walking down the stairs. We made it to the 8th floor. Big explosion. Blew us back into the 8th floor. And I turned to Hess. I said, this is it. We're dead. We're not going to make it out of here.
Entering Building 7 together before the strike on the South Tower at 9:03 a.m., Jennings and Hess were surprised to discover that the office had been abandoned. Receiving a phone call from his superior, Jennings was warned to leave the building immediately. Descending via the stairwell, Jennings and Hess reached the 6th floor before an explosion blew them back up to the 8th floor, trapping them inside the building. After 7 years of investigation, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, determined that the building had not come down due to explosives or controlled demolition, as many alleged, or due to structural damage from the collapse of the Twin Towers, an explosion in the building's fuel oil systems, or any of the other suggestions that had been put forward and retracted by NIST over the course of its investigation. Instead, NIST spokesman Shyam Sunder insisted that the building had collapsed due to ordinary office fires.
For the first time, we have shown that fire can induce a progressive collapse.
The commission's own co-chairman, Lee H. Hamilton, later admitted significant limitations, including restricted access to classified materials and pressure to produce a unified narrative that avoided rocking too many boats in Washington, D.C.
If it's an act of war and it's hiding things, which everyone on your commission knew that the Pentagon was changing their stories, lying to you, and it's a cover-up of an act of war, and under Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution, it's treason. So unless we get to the very bottom of it, then we're still talking a treasonous exposition.
This is a longer conversation. I'm not sure this one you ever get to the bottom of it.
We have to, or we can't save our country, sir.
I don't think, well, if that's the condition upon which we're going to be saving our country, there's a problem. It's a 30-year-old conspiracy.
The report's focus on systematic issues conveniently sidestepped naming names like Larry Silverstein.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
And the rapid removal of debris before thorough forensic analysis could take place.
I'm also told that military heavy equipment will be brought in, bulldozers, cranes, things of that nature, to go in there as soon as they possibly can.
What ties these threads together is the persistent whisper that 9/11's full story remains buried beneath layers of classified documents, redacted files, and an elite code of silence. Why would the Epstein-Maxwell orbit be included? And if there truly was such a secret commission, what compromising material was leveraged by insiders to shape public narratives around the attacks or their aftermath? Edward J. Epstein's 2003 email to Maxwell isn't just a footnote, it's a breadcrumb in a larger maze, suggesting that even alternative inquiries were being quietly seeded within compromised circles. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
Yeah, John Bound, he's got some good reports. I was just like, yeah, I gotta get into that one, because it wasn't just about the depraved behavior. It was about cataloging and attaching that depraved behavior to people of means, whether they had money or they were in politics or they were in entertainment. Okay. At the end of the day, it's a spiritual war. At the end of the day, they are still serving Satan, period. Right? Some people may call it Baal or Moloch because they're, the children that are being worshipped. And just, like I said, just complete depraved behavior. Now, we've got enough time. I am going to share with you guys some videos on Pam Bondi. Apparently, there was a hearing yesterday, and things got a little intense. Maybe just a bit.
Are you serious? Talking about anti-Semitism to a woman who lost her grandfather in the Holocaust. And I see that my time is almost expired, so I will say this. Do the right thing, Attorney General. Meet with the survivors. They have been asking for a year. Meet with the survivors. Do the right thing. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 5 minutes.
May I have 20 seconds of his time?
That'd be up to the gentleman, but...
Absolutely, Madam
Thank you. Thank you. I was curious if you, Congresswoman, asked Bill Clinton that. Didn't see one tweet, not one. I didn't see one tweet when Joe Biden was in office about Bill Clinton. Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once. When he was
weak sauce.
And also, I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
is
Jewish.
I just want to be clear.
Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Or do you want to go there? Are you serious? Talking about anti-Semitism to a woman who lost her grandfather in the Holocaust. Really?
The committee will be in order.
Talk to Jared Wise about anti-Semitism.
The ranking member.
Wow. I thought we got loud. My goodness. All right. Now there's another video. And this one's a little bit different. This is a Republican that actually had some questions for Pam Bondi.
Wisconsin for 5 minutes.
Attorney General Bondi, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have spent the past several months attacking the administration for doing exactly what the American people wanted when they overwhelmingly elected President Trump, securing our border and enforcing our immigration laws. I find it a bit ironic because this is the same party who just a few years ago were openly supporting strong immigration enforcement after witnessing criminal illegal aliens wreak havoc on the American communities. I have a short video I just wanted to play.
Of immigrants. We're also a nation of laws. Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws, and I believe that they must be held accountable.
They've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked, they're gone.
No great nation can be in a position where they can't control their borders.
While we need to address the issue of immigration and the challenge we have of undocumented people in our country, we certainly don't want any more coming in.
Every place in this country are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens.
Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple. When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration, which the American people overwhelmingly oppose. If you don't think it's illegal, you're not going to say it. I think it is illegal and wrong.
Open the borders, my God. There's a lot of poverty in this world, and you're going to have people from all over the world, and I don't think that's something that we can do at this point. Can't do it.
Yes or no? Would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country.
So Attorney General Bondi, What's the Trump administration DOJ doing to end the open border policies of the prior administration that saw dangerous drugs and criminal aliens flood our communities?
Congressman, President Trump has worked tirelessly, as you know, to close our border, which is what the Democrats had asked for in that video. President Trump closed our borders on day one. He is protecting Americans. He is protecting our kids from the influx of drugs that were flowing into this country from Mexico, the fentanyl precursors that were coming from China. These precursors were taken from China into Mexico, and in Mexico, they were mixed and freely taken right into our country, along with gang members, MS-13, TDA, freely coming into our cities around our country, thanks to Joe Biden's open border policies. That has stopped under Donald Trump. It will no longer happen under this administration, and he is doing everything to keep Americans safe. And let me continue. When he was elected overwhelmingly by the American people, the majority of the American people wanted Donald Trump. One of the main reasons was border security and keeping Americans safe. And that's exactly what he did. And that's why today the other side sits here, they yell, they cut me off, they want to yell, they want to ask a question and don't want answers because they want to distract from all the great things that this president and this administration working hand in hand, and that includes Secretary Noem, who has closed our borders, and Tom Homan, who has closed our borders to keep Americans safe. And they're trying to distract from that, and they're not going to do it because the American people are smarter than that, and they see through their theatrics.
Thank you. Just quickly, yesterday, Senator Grassley reached out to my office to tell me that I was one of the 20 members that was now disclosed were under surveillance from Jack Smith. This brings up the question of non-disclosed orders and whether or not they should apply to members of Congress. But with my phone records being surveilled, as well as looks like 19 other members of Congress, I'm just wondering how DOJ views that.
Time is, gentleman's expired, but the gentlelady can respond.
As I stated earlier, Congressman, anyone's records who were illegally obtained, Democrat or Republican, we will fight vigorously to stop that. Anything with Arctic frost, I can't discuss right now.
And isn't it true, Madam Attorney General, the DOJ has changed their policy? You can't do that now. The DOJ is not going to go do that and ask the judge for an NDO.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. That in and of itself tells you why how wrong it was. The chair now.
Yeah, so for those of you who may not be familiar with Arctic frost, it was very similar to COINTELPRO, where they surveyed people. They actually ran disinformation campaigns. Can't believe I'm using that word, but they did. They ran campaigns on individuals to make them look disparaged within the propaganda that they give to us. They purposely did it. And this was done by people out of our FBI. And I'm not shocked or surprised because if you read through the COINTEL document, it actually does say that they want to curtail what happens to the white race as well as the black race. Now, what makes the difference is they told the black race, you're not going to have another black Jesus. You're not going to have another leader that's going to actually be put in place to save you. And we figured that out. We're like, okay, we don't need a leader. We're just going to get this done. And they still don't like it. They're still running their nonsense because it is a culture at the FBI right now. It is a culture within the CIA. It is a culture within the NSA and all of our surveillance agencies. It is a cancer that has bred through our federal government where they feel like they are God and we are just these things that they have to deal with. And that's going to stop. That is going to stop. They need to curtail government. There's over, close to 4 million people that just work for the executive branch. We haven't even got to the legislative branch or the judicial branch. Okay, I understand there's money to be made in government, but y'all are the welfare queens. It's not us. It's not us. It's not the American people. Look, the American people are getting pennies compared to what the federal government is getting. I showed you that scale. They're like at over 2,000%. What? How are you enriching yourselves off the backs of the American people? All of you need to be in prison. Again, I go back to my prison, my prison outline. Now I found another video. Now this one does talk about Bondi, but I don't think this is a good highlight of her, but we have to see everything in perspective. But I wanted to give you those two first, where she was actually shown speaking. So let's get that up. Let's see. That was kind of weird. I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing? I was still learning my way around this system. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. Some things are good. Some things I'm kind of like, I don't like the fact that I can see that I am broadcasting on X. But what I can't see is I can't see it in my actual feed. So because yesterday I was like, well, where's my feed of my show so I can actually, take it down, because you guys know I take down my feeds from the previous day, whatever, what have you. I couldn't find it because it wasn't on my actual feed. So I may have to let go of this system and find another one that may work a little bit better for me. We will see. But let's check out this video with Pam Bondi.
Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and Pam Bondi has been completely destroyed in a hearing today as she answered questions by many different representatives. Of course, I'm not a fan of any politicians here, but I do enjoy people who are clearly blatantly covering up for pedophilia and child trafficking. Thousands of people, including, in many cases, by the looks of these emails, the murder of children and the torture of children. I like to see them get somewhat of their comeuppance, though justice is much more bleak than what they are actually getting at the time. Nonetheless, we have incredible video coming out of these hearings of Pam Bondi and her being questioned by multiple people, including Thomas Massie, who is someone we've had on our show many times before. And we are going to go into a bunch of these clips today of these different representatives. And remember, not Thomas Massie, but most of these politicians that are asking her questions have themselves been tied up in some really sketchy stuff. But just to get an idea of what it's going to sound like on Bondi's side here, Attorney General Bondi, her testimony about Epstein turned into a big thing about anti-Semitism for, these politicians asking her a question about Epstein. Oh, well, they don't support Israel, so they're anti-Semites. I mean, this is like a blatant example of, it's such an obvious Mossad blackmail ring. But here's what she said in her opening testimony. Here's 45 seconds of it.
Didn't see one tweet, not one. I didn't see one tweet when Joe Biden was in office about Bill Clinton. Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once. When he was
weak sauce.
Also, I want the record to reflect that
we all know this is not an opening statement. This was the 20 seconds she asked from one of the senators. Just wanted to clarify that.
With this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh, is Jewish. I just want to be clear. Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Or do you want to go there? Are you serious? Talking about anti-Semitism to a woman who lost her grandfather in the Holocaust?
My time.
Really?
The committee will be in order.
Talk to Jared Wise about anti-Semitism.
Oh, man.
Ranking member.
I don't think that's ever going to get old. That clip is going to be priceless.
WWE, my friends. This is all, the government is such theater. It's so ridiculous. It's idiocracy times 10. And yes, she's yelling at Pam Bondi's yelling at some Jewish woman for being an anti-Semite for not supporting Israel, and therefore that somehow comes out of the issue of Epstein. I think that might be a Freudian slip. We're going to get into a bunch of the clips and longer form videos and more, and we're going to go over it and talk about what they mean and what they say about the future of the cult of statism. But before we get into it, my friends, I urge people to...
Okay, so this is just one of the videos that I came across, right? And I'm not going to play the whole video because I don't have a lot of time. And there's some other things that I want to get to. But in that one in particular, it does show more clips from what happened at the hearing. So I just wanted to, keep you guys up to speed. Now, there are a lot of people that are very, how should I say, they do not like Pam Bondi. Like they're over it. They're just like, yeah, you can leave. Okay. Like we're all good. We're all okay with you leaving the administration, right? But the question is Donald Trump going to release her from her duties? And here's the thing, outside of this hearing, the bigger problems are what she's not doing, right? There are some things, I should say, that should be happening with the attorney general that are not happening. And it's reflecting not just bad on the administration, but it could take down the administration, right? There, with the whole vaccine thing, there was that back and forth with Kennedy, and he was like, yeah, we should shut this down. She overturned it. Yeah, she overturned some stuff dealing with vaccines. There's that issue. Now you've got this whole Epstein issue where there were things that could have been released a long time ago, right? And why are you redacting the names and protecting the names of people who attacked these victims, right? Why haven't any of these names been brought forth to Congress to say, okay, these are the people that we're going to go after to arrest, and we're working with the FBI to arrest them? Like, is that even happening? Is that even going forward? Because if you don't do that and you don't come through for the American people, it's all over for everybody. You just let the demons win. Okay. Period. Now, this next video, this is about, unfortunately, the potential of the dollar collapsing. So I just wanted to squeeze this one in, and hopefully I'll be able to get another video in.
Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and Mark Rubio just admitted the quiet part out loud in an interview, but with, of course, the only station he does interviews with, it seems, Fox News. So let's hear what he says about the collapse of the US dollar.
Today, Brazil, in our hemisphere, largest country in the Western Hemisphere south of us, cut a trade deal with China. They're going to, from now on, do trade in their own currencies, get right around the dollar. They're creating a secondary economy in the world, totally independent of the United States. We won't have to talk about sanctions in 5 years because there'll be so many countries transacting in currencies other than the dollar that we won't have the ability to sanction them.
So there you have it, my friends. He's admitting exactly what we've been warning of for a very long time. And this comes shortly after Donald Trump says that a weakened dollar is good for America. We reported on that recently in a video.
And that comes around to BRICS, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Okay. It was BRIC us, but they were like, no, we don't need Africa and South Africa. It's just South Africa that incorporates Africa. BRICS. Yeah. So they don't have to use the dollar. They haven't probably been using the dollar for a long time, but now it's just in your face. They're like, we don't got to deal with you, United States. And that's the thing. It's like, we need to stop being as nice as we are. Kick everybody out. I don't care. If you are not from here, if you're a refugee, asylum seeker, or whatever, y'all got to go home. And you need to stop pulling off of our economy. And we can work together, right? There's some trades that we can do, this, that, and the other. But China's like, yeah, we can go around them in our own currency. Let's get it. Let's go. We don't need the dollar. We can exchange this way. There's nothing saying that we have to use the dollar. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a longer video. It's about 30 minutes. And I will definitely link it in the repost of our program. Now, yesterday, I also came across a video. I'm not sure if there's going to be any narration to this video, but this is about fake certificates, so like fake birth certificates. So with the SAVE Act, says you've got to show your certificate of origin, even if you're from another country. But again, now, are these certificates valid? That's going to be the bigger question when we're dealing with people from other countries coming here to the United States and getting naturalized to vote in our elections. This is what they found. All of these certificates So people were transporting these certificates from wherever this is, and I think this is South America, where they came across all of this. Again, there's no translation, but he's holding up a certificate and showing like, yeah, this is what we found. This is the bust that we came across, and I'll make sure to send you guys the link because I found this in X. But yeah, so I don't know if the people behind him are the guilty people or not. But unfortunately, I can't understand the language. But again, there's more context on X for that particular bust that happened with all these certificates. It's just the criminality. I mean, I'm glad it's coming to the light, but it's just sad that it's even happening at all. Now, before we pack it up, I did, of course, I've always got questions. Right? They're like, what are we doing? How are we doing it? And where is this thing headed? So I don't know if you guys remember a couple months back, a representative in the Virgin Islands by the name of Stacey Plaskett. She claimed and she didn't know Jeffrey Epstein. She didn't know, right? She was just kind of like, yeah, he's a constituent and he was giving me information and this, that, and the third. And people were like, okay, how does he have your cell phone number? He's got your cell phone number. He didn't have just he's got your cell phone number, like personally. And he's texting you back and forth about Donald Trump. And this was during 2019. So he was still alive in 2019. People are now rumoring he's pulled a Machiavelli. So anyway, back on course. So I said, the latest release of the files are like 526 mentions. The reason I say that is because I have access to what's the JMailed world. And it says the most recent major release of Jeffrey Epstein related files occurred in January. Okay. Now, reports confirm Stacey Plaskett appears hundreds of times in this latest dump, described in coverage as hundreds, okay, rather than exactly 526. Well, I just have 526 because that's what came up in the search. So, in fresh details, primarily expand on Plaskett's pre-2019 interactions with Epstein and his associates, showing more extensive contact than previously detailed in 2025 estate releases. Right? So there's key new revelations include there was an island meeting in 2014, emails from Epstein's associates directly asked Plaskett if she could meet Epstein on his island. Now, this lady said, well, he's a constituent, but, there's no other there, pretty much, right? She said this, and she said this outside of the halls of Congress, so she's not protected by the speech and debate clause at all, but she was trying to distance herself, right? Let's just say it. So on Monday, August 18, 2014, at 11 a.m., one email read, hello, Stacey, just circling back. Will you be able to meet with Jeffrey on his island on Monday, August 18th at 11 a.m.? Erica, if Stacey is available for this, will you be going as well? I guess that's an associate of Stacey's, maybe her assistant. This was years after the 2008 Florida conviction. So everybody at this point knows he's a convicted pedophile. At this juncture, she is a member of Congress. Okay. Phone date. All right. Schedule. Epstein's assistant arranged what was described as a phone date between Plaskett and Epstein. So, just like a coordinated meeting where they could talk on the phone. Ongoing personal, professional tone. Additional text emails show Plaskett expressing appreciation for Epstein's support September 2018. Okay. So this is about roughly a year before he was convicted again and then arrested. So I know you're tremendously busy. Thanks so much for taking time and sharing ideas, thoughts. I appreciate your support and hope I'm not presumptuous to consider you a friend. That's what she said. In May 2019, Epstein wished her a happy birthday via text, leading her to ask how he knew her birthday. Now, that was kind of silly because you can look on Wikipedia and find somebody's date of birth. It's public information. That's kind of, yeah, we have that kind of technology. So I was like, really? So voter file funding pitch in 2017. Now, May 5th, 2017, and she also uses the pseudonym Leroy Daughter. Plaskett reportedly asked Epstein to fund a one-year project to create a new voter file for the Virgin Islands, claiming it would allow her to completely outperform anyone in any race. So she's reaching out to him for help. You know, is it okay if I consider you a friend? Huh? But she doesn't know this guy. Just want to put that out there. She didn't know him. She said, that's what she said. That's what she said. You know, it's sad that, you know, we have such liars in our political spectrum. But I do have, again, access to the email. So I'm going to figure out how to, you know, put it on my computer, because right now they're on my tablet because I have it's under a different browser, excuse me. Apparently you can't use Chrome because Chrome doesn't really work with the Gmail. And that's jmail.world for any of you who would like to do a little bit of digging on your own. So I asked another question. It says, what's a create a voter, whoops, that typo, but a new voter file, like what is that? So apparently, it's building or compiling an enhanced up-to-date digital database of eligible voters in the territory. And this would focus on recent voters, right? And include updated contact details like phone numbers, email addresses, home addresses, along with other relevant data. So that's what she was trying to do, creating this new voter file. So in U.S. elections and campaigns, especially at the local level or to territorial level, a voter file is a core tool. It's essential. It's essentially a comprehensive database drawn from official voter registration records, turnout history, and often supplemented with consumer commercial data. So basically, it gives you all of the profiled information on every single voter, and you can target how in the outreach you have, giving you a better outcome at the ballot box. And there's nothing illegal about doing it. Don't get me wrong. She didn't do anything illegal and do it because they all do it. They all use it, right? It's just the relationship she had. And she said that she didn't have it. Why were you reaching out to him for this? Now, getting back to her elections, now she won overwhelmingly in one of the elections because she ran unopposed. Okay. Now, her general election in 2018, she received a little over 16,000 votes, which was 98%. But this is after she created the voter profile that she was trying to do, right? So this was after that. Now, this was a landslide victory, far exceeding competitive races. So in her initial race in 2014, she won by a close Democratic primary with a narrow margin, and the general with over 90% against Republican. Her 2016 reelection was also strong, but not as lopsided as 2018. So it's almost like, so what really was the difference in 2018? Because she had more information on the voters, where she could target the voters. But the 2018 race wasn't competitive. No major challenges emerged in the primary or general, so she faced no real oppositions to outperform, but she still outperformed, regardless of that, with no opposition, right? So it's interesting. So in short, she did win decisively in the next election cycle after the 2017 solicitation, achieving near total dominance rather than close contest. This has been noted in recent coverage, Free Beacon articles tying back to the Epstein files release as part of scrutiny over her Epstein ties, but no evidence links the outcome directly to that specific project. So you never see if he gave her money or any support, but we do know that he had supported her campaign back in like 2014, 2015, because it was a whole party thing. And Hakeem Jeffrey was like, no, no, no. And if we find him in the files, like, bro, at this juncture, anybody who's in these files, you just need to come forward and be like, look, I was in the files. This is how it went down. And that's it. Don't lie, because people are going to find out what's happening. Like, people have made it their life's work and mission to just find who was in here and who said that they weren't. My thing is, she kept posing Epstein as a constituent. She actually did email him and said, can I consider you a friend? That's a totally different relationship. And you went, then we still got to find out, did you go to the island? I know you're over the U.S. Virgin Islands, but did you go to the island? And to even further that, she's the same woman who helped him get the $200 million tax break, or $300 million tax break. Sorry. Yeah. Same lady. Yeah. But that was before she got the elected position she's in now. This was when she was just working for the consulate at the Virgin Islands, when she was helping Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. So it's one of those things. We'll see how deep this rabbit hole goes. We'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. But I just want to thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. I do apologize for the late start this morning. I'm telling you, everything was like, hair on fire. But again, thank you so much for joining me here. We will be back tomorrow for our Prayer with Friday. So definitely, maybe I should take some prayer requests in the comment section, or, email me, let me know if there's anything you guys want me to pray for specifically, or, add into the prayer for Prayer with Friday. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.